Rangers Podcast. With Andrew Chelby. And Nick Zararis.
Rangers fans, welcome to the best Rangers podcast in town. I am Andrew Chelney alongside Nick Zararis, and we are Liberty Blue. We scream about the New York Rangers so that you can save your voice. That's how deeply we care about you, and we appreciate that you've joined us for the ride. This is episode 26, live on Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube. We'll put the full video up on our YouTube, Liberty Blue Podcast, and the audio version will be available wherever you get your podcasts as well. Search Liberty Blue on your favorite podcast platform, and it should be there. Give the show that shiny and illustrious 5-star review on Apple Podcast and Spotify and everywhere else you can rate podcasts. It helps us and the show more than you think it does. At Liberty Blue Pod on Twitter and Instagram. I am at Chelney Andrew, CHELNEY Andrew, and that is Nick Zararis, Nick ZARARIS. Those are our personal handles to follow as well. Nick, well, the Rangers have decided to win some hockey games for a change. It's nice.
The goal of playing hockey in the NHL is to win the game. It does not get any simpler than that. You dress 18 skaters and a goalie and your backup goalie, and you go out there and you try and win. And the Rangers managed to string together 3 in a row for the first time this year. They had not had a winning streak of more than 2 games prior to the last 3. And we were talking about it before we started recording. A week before, if those 3 games were played the week before or the week before that, the Rangers probably lose all 3 of those games, and we're talking about the Blues game, the Vegas game, and the Colorado game, because all 3 of those games were just kind of hanging around in the balance, waiting for one of those 2 teams to win the game. And for once this year, the Rangers were able to do it multiple times. And granted, some of this, you're going to get pushback that they didn't play particularly well. They took advantage of the situation. Right now, that is progress, because the week before that, you lose in overtime to Ottawa. You get dumpstered by the Blackhawks. That's not good performance. Those are not acceptable performances. And to hang around against teams, even if they're not good, and find a way to win, that is incremental progress, and why I am a little more bullish than I was a week ago. A week ago, we were talking, and I've since had confirmed, I've had a few people give me tips that if Monday's game didn't go the way it went, there might have actually been some things that have happened. So along those lines, things have changed very quickly in a week, but that's the benefit of the Metro kind of being this knife fight. There's 6 teams separated by 4 standings points right now. It's going to get a lot dicier the further along we go, especially because the Rangers have a lot of division games that still need to be played. They haven't played Pittsburgh yet. They haven't played Washington yet. They played the Devils tonight after I'm recording this. They have the Islanders one more time. It's going to start to get real very soon. You can keep saying there's plenty of time. There's plenty of time. Pretty soon, we're going to be in January, and then you're 2 months to the trade deadline, and then you know who's for real and who isn't. It's going to come a lot faster than you think it will.
The thing about last week's games is that the only good win they had, and again, every win at this point is a good win, but in terms of it, they played 3 games, they won all of them, but the one game that they really played well in was Vegas. Now, granted, no Eichel, no Pietrangelo, but still, they played well, and in the third period, they skated circles around Vegas, and then they scored 3 quick goals, and that was the game. They played well in that game. A credit to the Rangers for actually showing up to a game, because in St. Louis, that was a dumpster fire of an experience. Jordan Binnington is just bad at his job right now, so the Rangers won that game. And in Colorado, they almost lost to an AHL team. And if that game happened 3 weeks ago when the Rangers were flailing and falling out of the sky, they would have gotten dumpstered there too. But because this is, I don't want to say the Rangers got out of that bad stretch, but if that happened a couple weeks ago, they would have lost that game handily. The Avs hit a few posts. Like that game was won basically because of Shesterkin, and if he plays marginally worse, the Rangers lose that game. So that was a prime time Shesterkin's going to steal a game kind of experience when he didn't need to do that. The Avs were missing their entire team. It was Val Nichushkin coming back from an injury, and you have Mikko Rantanen, and that was it. Like, okay, and you have Cale Makar. That's it. That's the whole team. And you barely win in overtime. Listen, they won the game. That's what's important. And they'll take the 2 points however they can get them. But at the same time, like, that doesn't give me a whole lot of confidence moving forward. Like, this was essentially an NHL team with a bunch of, with a few NHL players sprinkled in there. And they had to rely on their goalie to make some incredible saves to barely win in a shootout. Like, dude, like, come on.
It's weird, okay? Because we all can accept that the Rangers were probably not as bad as they played the last month. They're probably also a little bit better than they've played in the last week. We're still kind of trying to figure out what exactly this team is. They're very middle of the pack in most statistics. They're middle of the pack on the power play, especially, which is concerning because that's the lifeblood of their offense. Nights they don't score on the power play, they typically don't win those games because they're banking on 1 goal from the power play pretty much every single game as part of their winning calculus. The single most important thing, and before we get to going game by game, there is a conversation to be had I wanted to have, but the most important thing, they've stabilized here. There's no more talking about, well, if they lose X number of games, how much longer does Gallant have? How fast can they get to making a trade to bring somebody else in here to kind of change up the energy? The fingers have stopped being pointed because they were able to win 3 games in a row. And that's very important to keep the season from going off the tracks. Because like we were just saying, yeah, there's a lot of games left. But if things got really bad, you change the coach. Maybe you get the new coach shot in the arm. Maybe you don't. That's still a year of everybody's primes that you're losing here. Like, aside from Adam Fox, all of the Rangers' main key important contributors are 28, 29, 30, 31. That you can't be flushing years of these guys' primes down the toilet. So it's very good that they were able to stabilize the situation and get things going in the direction that we kind of expect them to. This is going to be an interesting week, and we'll talk about the games this upcoming week before we see you guys next week. It's an interesting couple of games, and you'll get a good understanding of how far along the Rangers actually are. But before we get to the philosophical subject I have down on our rundown, is there any other big picture thing you want to get in, Andrew?
The thing about, real quick here, I tweeted this out earlier this week as well, is like the thing about the Gallant firing, as an idea in the ether, is that, okay, well, if you move on from Gallant, who is available? And the answer is you have Barry Trotz, who does a lot of the same things lineup wise that Gallant does and that people don't like that he does. Is Trotz a better coach than Gallant? I guess. But the fact of the matter is, a lot of the things that annoy people about Gallant will Trotz does the same thing. Like, he stapled Leo Komarov to Matt Barzal on Long Island. Not in. I would have gotten pitchforks outside my window if I said in Long Island. On Long Island. Like, he would have done the same thing. He would have put Barclay Goodrow on the first line with Panarin and said, oh, have fun. Like, Trotz would do a lot of the same things, which is why the question is, okay, well, if not Trotz, then who is it going to be? The Rangers wouldn't hire somebody that they have no idea who it is. They wouldn't hire a fresh face to lead this team to the playoffs, because this is supposed to be a deep playoff run team that needs some kind of head coach with a lot of experience, or at least that's their mentality, to take them to the playoffs. They wouldn't hire somebody out of college, or they wouldn't do what Montreal did with Marty St. Louis, because that, like, the Canadians did not have, like, they don't have the aspiration of this is a team that's built for the playoffs, or we're going to win, and we need an experienced coach. Like, no, that team was trash. So they tried out Marty St. Louis and said, hey, he can't possibly be worse than what we had, so let's try Marty St. Louis. And it turns out that Marty St. Louis is actually pretty good at this coaching thing. Like, the Rangers wouldn't do that because the aspirations for both clubs are different. If they were to fire Gallant, they would need to go and hire a familiar face. If not Trotz, are they gonna bring up their heart for Wolfpack coach? Like, is that their would that have been their gotcha moment of this is our experienced guy who we're gonna bring up and hopefully he does good things for us? Like, I don't know what the solution for them would have been. I don't think they would have looked at Trotz. Maybe not, like, because again, like, the styles are similar in a way. He does a lot of the same lineup decisions that Gallant makes that we find very annoying. And like, okay, well, they wouldn't hire Marty St. Louis. They wouldn't hire a new face. They need an experienced players. They need experienced guys. So either it be Chris, I think it's not Knobloch.
Yeah,
That's his
Knobloch.
last name. Either him or Barry Trotz. Like, those are basically the Rangers' two options at head coach if Gallant gets fired.
Yeah, no, that's the thing. And a lot of time, and this will transition nicely into what we're about to talk about where you're coming from to understanding these types of stories and these types of events and getting a better understanding of that in terms of just being able to process what's going on around you better. Like this morning, Elliot Friedman did the hit on NHL Network to talk about Patrick Kane. And just like, you got to understand, Elliot Friedman is doing a spot on NHL Network on daytime TV where in between the segments of panelists, it's infomercials, stuff to enlist in the military. It is stuff for people who are at home during the day, who are unemployed or working from home with something on in the background. Elliot Friedman is not giving you good information on NHL Network. He's going to give that to you on Wednesday Night Hockey on Sportsnet or on Hockey Night in Canada. He's going to put it in 32 Thoughts. They'll talk about it on 32 Thoughts, or he will just tweet it if he has actual news to break. What that is speculation. Speculation is not the same thing as reporting, but because of the lines being blurred and the contentification of journalism, which is bad for everybody, it's really hard to just get a straightforward answer about anything that's going on. And why Andrew and I spent the entire summer complaining about the insiders saying, well, maybe something is going to happen. Well, you went to journalism school. That is not journalism. That is speculating. You saying, I am hearing. That's not journalism. It's nice that you were hearing things, but unless you can verify this from a second person, that is not reporting. That is speculating. And it's part of the problem sports media in general has right now is it's not journalism anymore. It's content. It's, well, we have to sell ad space on this TV network, on this podcast, on this website. We need trade rumors. Trade rumors will always get clicks. And this is going to start the metaphysical thing I have in the rundown here about what box you belong in, because it's very straightforward. You're either coming at this as a fan, a well-informed fan, a content person, a journalist, or an expert. Those are the boxes that people fall into in the hockey sphere. And most people, the vast majority of people, like I saw a tweet today and I read something about it because I was curious. 90% of the people who use Twitter only tweet once or twice a week. That's it. 90% of the people are just there to get information. They are not there to contribute to the conversation. And that's the vast majority of people. They just want to know what's going on with their favorite team. That is why free agency, trade rumors, that stuff is golden, because that's easy. They don't need to know anything beyond just, oh, my favorite team is interested in this player. That's all I need to know. That's great. I can talk about this with my friends. I can talk about this at work. The informed fan is somebody who's got a subscription to a news publication, whether it's The Athletic, whether it's, I don't even know who does, whether you're subscribed to like a Patreon for a hockey analyst who does like statistics and stuff. Those are the types of
Like
fans
Jay Fresh.
yeah, like people like Jay Fresh, people like Corey Snyder. Those are people you will see, those fans who have that information, you will see contributing to the conversation, who are replying to journalists, to content people, to experts, because they're trying to get a deeper understanding. They want to know why things are happening. Then you have content people who are doing things like YouTube and TikTok and Twitter and Twitch, which is mostly where we fall, where we are giving you our opinions about the information we have. This is not the same thing as doing journalism. We are not breaking news. We are not talking to sources. Occasionally, we get a tip, we hear things, great, but we don't report them because we cannot independently verify them.
Yeah.
You have journalists where you have insiders. those are the people who are constantly tweeting things into the ether and trying to further the conversation, and are newsmakers in themselves, because when they report things, that sets the agenda for what everybody else is going to be talking about. And then the experts are people who are firsthand, the people who design the statistical models, the people who are directly in the hockey community, whether they're a scout, whether they're a data analyst, a visual coach. Those are the people directly involved in the game and are going to typically be the people that content people and journalists are going to be talking to get a better understanding. When you put people into these boxes, you get a better understanding of why conversations are happening the way they are. And I wanted to talk about this in the context of the Rangers, because the social media sphere is the Wild West. Everybody brings their own ideas and their own opinions to the conversation. And it's very hard to have a conversation because everybody brings their own opinion to the ether. And because you have informed fans, non-informed fans, content people, all of these people intermingling, that's why it can seem like things are out of hands. Like, was there ever really consideration that the Rangers are going to fire Gallant? Probably not. But there was enough of a groundswell that, okay, well, we've got to humor these people, so they'll look at the tweets, so they'll click on the links, etc. That's all into this, what's the word I'm looking for? Ecosystem, this media ecosystem that feeds into itself and why it self-perpetuates. We're going to hear about Patrick Kane to the Rangers 1,000 times between now and March 2nd, unless it happens before then.
The thing about the Patrick Kane trade, and I know we talked about this before, but because Elliot Friedman brought it up, we have to talk about it as well. The thing about Patrick Kane is that we have to remember that we are not trading for what he did in the past. If you are trading for a player, you are doing it on the assumption that he is going to provide good value for your team as soon as he lands moving forward. If you trade for Patrick Kane because of what he did during the Stanley Cup runs, you are a loser. Like, you in the like, not in terms of like you as a person. I'm saying like in terms of
Good clarification.
in terms, yeah, right. Like, I'm not, like in terms of the trade aspect of it, you are the loser of the trade because you are not trading for, like, if for example, I know we talked about this like before the show, like if Ryan O'Reilly for whatever reason gets offered to the Rangers in a potential trade package because the Blues are bad and Ryan O'Reilly is going to be a free agent after this season, 1,000%, I would much rather get Ryan O'Reilly than Patrick Kane. Patrick Kane, 34 years old, and right now, if his bar graph chart is awful. But like, forget analytics for a second. Just watch the dude play. He can't defend to save his life.
Well, he's cherry picking. He's
always
scored, cherry picking.
He scored 3 goals the entire season at even strength. He's a power play merchant right now. The Rangers have enough of those. They don't need another one. They have the whole team is a power play merchant. Like, why add Patrick Kane? Another one? Yeah, the Rangers, that's what the Rangers needed, is more power play merchants, actually. I don't know if you know that, Nick, but the Rangers don't have a lot of power play guys, and so if you add Patrick Kane to the mix, that'll solve all of the issues. Now, I don't know if you know that, but with Ryan O'Reilly, at least he could play both ends of the ice. Ryan O'Reilly is an elite player. If he, and again, like, we don't know for sure, we're just speculating because of this is his final year of his contract. The Blues and his camp aren't really talking contract right now, and the Blues are bad. So if they continue to be bad, there's a decent chance that he might become available closer to the deadline if the Blues continue to fall off a cliff as they have been. 1,000 times out of 1,000, go for Ryan O'Reilly. Like, Patrick Kane is solving nothing for this team, and I know Elliot Friedman mentioned it because what else is there to mention right now? It's December 12th, 2022, and he's on daytime TV, as you mentioned. Like, if he's going to break any news, he's going to do it on his own terms. He had to mention it because he reported it in the past, and what else is there to talk about? But Patrick Kane, I was debating somebody on Twitter earlier today that was like, well, he has experience. I'm like, dude, I don't know how to break this to you, but they gave Barclay Goodrow a lifetime contract because he has experience. Like, how many of these hashtag experience guys do you need?
We have Sammy Blay. Sammy Blay won a cup. We don't need
There
more
you go.
guys who already won a cup.
Sammy Blay's got a ring. He's out there doing things on a nightly basis. He's getting his cardio in. He's I guess he's getting his laps. He's getting his steps in to I'm sure maybe he has his Fitbit on and it's tracking how many laps he's made around the ice and all these things. So listen, it's also tough to like hate on Sammy Blade too much because of the injury that he had. It's really difficult to come out and play at 100%. But like at a certain point, man, score a goal, please. Like just one.
The olive branch I can extend for Sammy Blay right now is if you go on to hockeyviz.com, which is a beautiful resource. I use their visuals on the show all of the time. It's well worth the $8 a month for the information you have access to. Sammy Blay's been a plus defender as a forward this year, which does matter because the role they're using him on right now on that fourth line. If we can get one more top six forward in here, we can slide Gaudreau down to fourth line center, and you have Sammy Blay, Gaudreau, and then either Gauthier or Brodzinski or whoever as the other forward. They should be a net positive defensively, and anything they give you on offense is gravy. And then suddenly you have a much better lineup. So I can extend that olive branch that Sammy Blay has been very good defensively in his own zone this year. I can extend that olive branch because we're trying to be reasonable. We're trying to be fair.
Sure.
We got to present the evidence. And the last thing on this before we can start going game by game, and then we'll
Pavel
talk about
Buchnevich, by the way, scored more goals in that Blues Rangers game than Sammy Blay has in his entire career as a Ranger. That's I have to say that for reasons, and also because I'm still a salty blanker because the Rangers did that trade in the first place, but that has been very, very well documented, so we don't have to go down that path.
But that's in the Geneva Convention. That's underneath the Dublin Accords about where you file for asylum. That's where you heard. You had to mention that. Yeah. So the last thing I wanted to touch on is this. It's really hard, really hard to put aside your own ideas, your own beliefs when you're looking at things because you don't want to upset yourself. There's a feeling that's a real psychological phenomenon. It is called cognitive bias, where you see information that is conflicting with your own internal beliefs. And because you hold your beliefs and you're looking at this new information, you're naturally going to be unsettled and be like, do I really know what I'm talking about? Am I sure about this? That uncomfortable feeling when you're presented with new evidence conflicting to your beliefs is a real thing. And it is why people are so uninclined to change their positions on things, to be open to new ideas. Whereas some people are able to put that aside and say, well, this is new information. Let me go see if I can find more to support this. And then maybe I do need to change my position. Because the Trouba discourse got to be so insufferable by Tuesday. No, it got really annoying when I forget who wrote the column. So one of the beat reporters wrote a column about, well, because Trouba got in 2 fights and threw his helmet, the Rangers won 3 games in a row. Like causation and correlation.
God, dude,
causation and correlation. They are winning these games because Igor is playing well. That's really it.
Yeah.
And we're gonna talk about that coming up in a second here, but when we start talking about each individual game. But that's the reason. It's great that the guys themselves feel like Trouba doing that is making them feel better. They're playing better. Maybe because they're feeling better, they're playing better. You could maybe make that argument. But let's slow our roll here. Let's be grounded in reality.
If the Jacob Trouba fights / helmet throw was the reason the Rangers won those 3 games last week, then
he should do it again.
He should do it again, and 2, maybe don't be responsible for 4 of the 5 goals against the Chicago Blackhawks. But hey, I don't have a verified check mark next to my name. I haven't bought Twitter Blue. I'm not going to do that either. So I don't even have a fake check mark next to my name. What do I know? I guess, but if you're gonna say that this was the catalyst for the Rangers winning the next 3 games, then why not also say that because of what he did on the ice against Chicago, they got dumpstered. It could go both ways. He was on the ice for multiple goals, and we talked about it last week. He took himself off the ice for 17 minutes, got back on the ice, took another penalty, and the Chicago Blackhawks scored. It's ridiculous to say that. Oh yeah, because of that thing that he did, that essentially took him out of half the game. the Rangers won the next 3 games. Yeah. A+.
So we can extend some kudos here. In the last week, Jacob Trouba has not been on the ice for a goal against at 5-on-5. He has
That's a golf
been
clap.
better.
Golf clap. Yeah.
He has
Yeah.
been better the last week, and that is important. We talked about it on the show last week. Trouba and Miller play 20 minutes of the game. There are 60 minutes in the game. If a third of your time a defensive pair is on the ice that is on the ice for more goals against than goals for, your math to winning each game becomes a lot more difficult. And we're going to talk about each game individually here in a second because I'm about to pull it up, and we're going to start with the game against the Blues. The Blues controlled that game. That was an ugly hockey game. And there's 2 separate things up here. I have the Rangers heat map at 5-on-5, and then I have the expected goals breakdown, and it's broken up by each individual player. As we can tell, Pavel Buchnevich knew this was a revenge game. He was the best player on the ice for
He's
either
also
team.
good at hockey. I don't know if you know
Yes.
this, Nick, but Pavel Buchnevich isn't the worst player in the NHL.
No, he's not. So the reason I always pull up the shot maps and I always choose the shot maps is because it's really hard to remember off the top of your head. Oh, how many chances did the Rangers have? Well, you can look at a number and an individual number. That's great. But looking where they came from and who took them, I think is so instructive in understanding why the Rangers have had issues at offense this year. You'll see on the map to the left, the red squares are goals. You look where those goals came from. 2 prime area. You want the shots where Trocheck and Lafreniere scored from. The K'Andre Miller goal, that's a lucky one. That's one that Binnington didn't see on the way in. And
Jordan
then the
Binnington is a goalie. He is
Yes.
one of the goalies of all time. That's how we will label his play in that game and also this whole season.
So that's the thing. The Rangers scored 6 goals in this game. They didn't play particularly well at 5-on-5. They got a gift. They scored above what they were expected to. And again, as we often say, expected goals does not mean this is what's going to happen. Based on what we saw happen, this is what happened. Okay? It's not predictive. It is I can't think of the word to describe it. It's not it's descriptive. It's describing what already happened. It's not telling you what is going to happen. Because something is happening doesn't necessarily mean it's going to happen. But in this case, the Blues played pretty well in this game. The Rangers played okay. The 1.5 expected goals differential is ugly, but the fact that the Rangers won this game, Igor made a couple timely saves, that's what matters in the context of understanding what these statistics mean. They played a little bit worse than they probably should have. They still managed to win. That is a sign of progress. Like we were saying off the top, it is really important for them to find ways to win games.
The Rangers basically just got gift wrapped that game because Jordan Binnington is not very good this season, and if that was Jordan Binnington at average NHL stats, or maybe that's not even going back to his Stanley Cup numbers, like the Rangers will lose that game. The Rangers essentially lost that game because Binnington lost it, and that, like, sometimes you need those games. It comes down to the fact that hockey is a weird, stupid, silly sport, and you need these things to happen over the course of an 82 game schedule for you to make the playoffs. Like this is one of those games where the Rangers did not play as well as St. Louis, but because the goalie battle was so lopsided, the Rangers won that game despite St. Louis doing everything they possibly could to negate that. Shesterkin was as good as he needed to be, and Binnington was bad. And that's the story of the game. So at least, again, this is one of those situations where the Rangers, like, did they deserve those 2 points? There's an argument to be had for both sides, but at the end of the day, they got the 2 points. And right now, because the Rangers have kind of been treading water and haven't been doing as well as we would like, we'll take it. We'll take the 2 points.
Yeah. Moving along here to the next one. Against Vegas, this game, the final was 5-1. it obviously felt a lot closer than that. Again, I have the heat map up there. Look who's taking the shots close to the net. It's Gaudreau, it's VZ, it's Sammy Blay. It's people who go to the net because they are not more high-end guys. The more high-end guys are going to be inclined to take more difficult shots. The more talented of a shooter you are, the more likely you are to make a difficult shot. But you see Zibanejad not really in the mix. Panarin 1-2 chances in the mix. Kreider non-existent in the mix at 5-on-5. It's frustrating when your team's best players, and this is the cliche, you got to go to the dirty areas if you want to win the games, but the Rangers' best players don't do that. And that is part of why it seems like it's so difficult for the Rangers to score at times, because the team's high-end players make difficult plays as opposed to trying to just keep it simple, get the puck on the net, look for rebounds, look for deflections. And that's a mental barrier. I don't know if you're ever going to be able to get the Rangers' best players to buy into playing that specific style for an extended period of time. It's frustrating. They won that game, but they didn't play particularly well. Even though they did win 5-1, the power play was the difference in this game. The two Zibanejad power play goals really the difference, and then the empty net goal.
Right, but it goes back to our conversation of like this team relies on the power play to win games. If Zibanejad, because he can't score at 5-on-5 for what, like, he refuses to do it. He's scored like a couple this whole season. Like, he just refuses. If it's not on the power play, he doesn't. He chooses not to score. I guess I don't really know, but like the Rangers relied on their power play and it came through. And then the third period, like that was all Rangers, and it wasn't even close from there. They got those 3 quick goals, and then like that was it. No one really cared about that game after the 5th goal was scored. It was like, all right, well that's GG, go next. But for the Rangers, like they controlled play for a part of it, and then in second period it was pretty much all Vegas. Like if you take a look at that game and you go, and you rewatch the first period, and you go, okay, well this is how the Rangers can play. And then the second period happened, it was all Vegas, and you're like, okay, well here we go again. This is the Rangers like turtling, or I don't know what's going on. And then the third period, they finally came out and they were like, hey, we're actually a hockey team. And then they scored 3 goals and they won the game. So for the Rangers, like they need to get more 5-on-5 output from their top guys. Zibanejad cannot be just the Alex Ovechkin on the power play of, I'm gonna hold my stick here, I'm gonna wait for the puck to come to me, I'm gonna shoot the puck, and you know where I'm gonna get, you know where I'm going to be, you know where the puck is going to go, but you still can't stop the shot. That right now is Zibanejad for a certain extent. Obviously, Ovechkin is like there's no debate on who's the better power play guy. That's not what we're going here for. But in terms of how they play on the power play, Mika Zibanejad and Alex Ovechkin play a similar style on the power play, where they will stand on the somewhere near the circle, and they will wait for the one-timer, and then they will dumpster the shot, and they will probably go in. Like that's the play. Other teams know it, and a lot of teams have now been a lot better at preventing that pass from going through, so that Zibanejad has essentially been rendered useless on all parts of the ice, because he's not scoring a 5-on-5, and if he doesn't get the puck on the power play, he ain't doing anything for you offensively. So the Rangers really need Zibanejad to get it going here at 5-on-5.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And the main reason I have the pie charts up here, the ones on the right, that's what they're called on the website, the pie charts, where it's broken down, each individual expected goals. Just a visualization of how good Igor was in that game, considering that they were close to 3 expected goals at 5-on-5. They scored a goal on the power play, and they only conceded 1 goal in the game. You keep getting results like that out of Igor, and then maybe we don't have to worry about as much about Zibanejad scoring at 5-on-5. Real quick, I'll pull up the one for the game against Colorado. It's not pretty for the one against Colorado. I mean, yes, Cale Makar is a transcendent force in the league. We have never seen a defenseman play the way he plays ever. This is just not normal, and that you can accept that somebody like Cale Makar is going to be able to make a lot of plays in a game. But for the Rangers to get that outplayed at 5-on-5 against a team that is severely depleted, where Val Nichushkin and JT Compher and Andrew Cogliano are playing significant minutes because guys in the top 6 are injured, That's that. It's just not acceptable. It's great they won the game, but again, you get into the bad habits. You start relying on Igor too much, and really quickly you're back to square one. That's really the last thing I wanted to talk about it with the visuals. Is just you can't let just because you won the game. It's the same thing with Gallant saying I'm not changing the lineup after a win. Well, even though you won, there's definitely things you could fix. You definitely didn't play a perfect game, and that stubbornness in refusing to change the lineup is just it's based in a flawed premise that because you won, you don't need to change anything. You should always be trying to improve.
The problem with the Rangers winning these 3 games is that they played the same way for the most part. Like, they got dumpstered by St. Louis, and they just happened to win because Binnington is a bad
I
goalie.
wouldn't say dumpster. That game was relatively close. In terms of play,
okay,
I would say it was a mid performance. I
it
wouldn't say they got
was a
dumpstered.
like right, but what I'm saying is if it was not Binnington in net, the Blues win that game.
Yeah, I'll give you that.
The Blues do not lose that game if they had a league average goalie in there right now. With that, like that's what I mean by that. So the Rangers didn't play well against St. Louis, happened to win. They played better against Vegas, but the second period was still trash. They got lucky there, and then the third period happened, and the Rangers like scored a bunch of goals, and that was the game. Colorado, they 100% deserved to lose that game. That was a trash performance by against the Colorado Eagles, and they still almost lost. They needed to take it to a shootout just to win the game against an AHL team. Like so the results are different and they have started to win games, but the process has stayed the same. That's the problem with the Rangers winning these games right now is that this is great. They're piling up points and they're finally I guess quote unquote figuring it out, all these things like, but it shouldn't be forgotten that the process that has gotten the Rangers to this point has not changed at all. It is still the same team and the same process and the same mind boggling lines and the same coaching system and the situation. Everything has stayed the same. The only thing that has changed is a couple of lucky bounces here and there, and Shesterkin stole a game and he played very well. And that's that. Like if that Colorado game was a few weeks ago, the Rangers lose that by a few. They got lucky there. Like that. This is the same team. Just they got a couple of different results here, and that might instill some confidence in the Rangers to actually start playing well. I mean, that'd be great. But for right now, this is the same team. Like that's what is making me hesitate to say that they're fixed or whatever. It's not like they skated circles around St. Louis or call like against the Avalanche, a team that like we talked about was pretty much an AHL team. They should have been skating circles around them, and yet Colorado should have won the game. That is worrying.
No, I completely agree with you. It's definitely worrying, but at the same time, let me hope they have gaslit themselves into some irrational confidence and they actually start
Sure.
playing well and start like the perfect example of this is Braden Schneider just letting it rip every time he shoots, and he's been doing that since last year, but the puck is going in now, which is a pleasant surprise, which part of the reason they've been getting lucky is that he's just letting it rip
The
from
thing
wherever he is on the ice.
the thing about Schneider, like people call him Baby True, but the problem with that is that Schneider's shots hit the net,
Yes.
whereas Jacob Trouba might hit the hot dog guy. Like that's kind of the difference. As like I don't know if you could call Schneider Baby Trouba if like his shots are actually one hitting the net and two he's actually scoring goals. Maybe Trouba's Baby Schneider. Who knows? Who knows? Who knows?
All right. Last thing before we do 3 stars and we get to a little Devils talk, because the Devils are one of the best teams in the league and just about the game. Can we please stop with whenever a guy goes to another team, immediately making them out to be the problem? Like the Georgiev discourse was insufferable over the weekend. Like why do you care that much that he's on another team now and the Rangers waved at him after they won in the shootout? Like, good Lord, man. I get that we're bored and we're all on the internet because we're bored. but you got to have something better to argue about. Yeah, Georgiev made it clear to the Rangers he wanted to go somewhere where he would have an opportunity to start last year. He still played. He was still on the team last year. They were better last year with him. He was better last year than Halak has been so far this year. They couldn't keep him because of the money. Let's not pretend he was Hannibal Lecter. He's the reason things were bad for them. Yeah, and maybe you get a little defensive about somebody being like, well, I don't want to be on this team anymore because it's your favorite team. But like, aren't we adults? Like, life happens, things change.
It's very childish. I gotta say, like, listen, Alex Georgiev had his moments as a Ranger. It's not as if he was, he wasn't very consistent. But I was at the game. I think it was last season where the Rangers played the Sharks, and Shesterkin like goes down with an injury, and Georgiev comes in and shuts out the Sharks. And would think it was a 1-0 game. Like, he had his moments. He wasn't the worst goalie of all time, and he wasn't phenomenal by any stretch of the imagination, but like, he did have his moments. And when a goalie that is struggling because they don't have enough ice time says, hey, like, thanks for giving me all, this opportunity, but I want to go elsewhere, and he plays for another team, dude, let it go. Let it go. It's so weird, man. Like, the fans have more grudges than the players do. Like, it's, if you want to wave, if Georgiev, when they first played and Georgiev got excited that he won, it's like, yeah, of course, like, he just played his former team and he won the game. Like, kudos to you all. And if the Rangers beat them in a shootout and they want to kind of return the favor, then okay, like, go ahead, dude. It's, I don't know. It's silly. It's silly. What it is silly. We are adults here in the situation. Like, everybody in the NHL is an adult. Like, if they don't care, or if they don't want to, if it's not a big deal to them, then like, why do you care?
All right, let's do 3 stars. We'll talk about the Devils real quick. Okay. 3 stars, very simple. We both have Igor, and I'll let you go first this week, Andrew.
Igor's great. He played well against St. Louis, or better than Binnington, which is not saying a whole lot, and he carried the team to the win there. And in Vegas, he played very well. Like, he was maybe the biggest reason that the Rangers won that game. It's in that second period, especially because if anybody else was in there, I could have gotten really hairy, and especially against Colorado, he was the star of the show. Igor was the star of the show for the Rangers against Colorado. He shouldn't have done that. They should have played better, but they did their best. We're gonna play with Henrik Lundqvist impression and just basically let Shesterkin have 90 saves and en route to a win that they should have handily won by a lot more. And Braden Schneider scoring goals. Like, he's doing really well. He's confident. The shots, as we talked about, are actually hitting the net, which is, you can't say that about every defenseman on the Rangers. And they're going in, and he's got a lot of confidence, and that's good. So let's see more of that. And also, hasn't been bad defensively. That's also super important to know and to talk about when you're talking about defensemen, because their first objective, more than anything else, is to defend. That's what being a defenseman is, first and foremost. Braden Schneider, on top of holding his own defensively, is also pitching in with goals. He gets a star. And Capo Caco, I mean, if he finally like learns to finish his chances, he might have 40 goals. Like, if he I know he scored this week, but like, if he just put in some of the chances that he had, he'd already be at double digits. Like, he's had so many great opportunities where he creates the play, creates the space, creates the shot, but the counting stats aren't there because the puck like hits off of someone's like piece of gum or like whatever, and it doesn't go in the net. And that is so infuriating if you're watching Capo Caco play, because he is doing so many things well offensively, but the counting stats aren't there, which is why you see Facebook fans wanting to get him traded, because he doesn't have the counting stats. But if you just watch him play for a second, you'll understand that, oh, like, this dude has it. Like, this dude is really starting to figure it out, and the counting stats will come eventually. So he gets my star.
Yeah, no, I got Igor. Igor's he was 860 against the Blues. Bleh. He's 950 something against Vegas, 960 something against Colorado. That alone, outstanding. Stole 2 of those 3. I have Truba's helmet because I'm going to be nice to the people who think that made a difference over the last week. And then positive regression, the actual reason the Rangers have played better in the last week, the puck is going in the net. It's that simple. They were losing a lot of games by 1 goal because they weren't getting bounces. They weren't getting lucky. Binnington threw them a bone. They got lucky. Against Vegas, they hung around. They waited. Their star players made more plays than Vegas's. And then Friday against Colorado, Igor made the plays. It's that simple. They had a really rough streak of bad luck. They got some goal luck. It's a lot easier to play when you're able to score more than 2 goals a night. I think the Rangers should continue scoring more than 2 goals a night.
It's a good plan, Yeah, that's the way that Jared Gallant should draw it up to the boys. It's just like, hey, let's go out there and score more than 2 goals a game for our goalie. Why not? And maybe they'll listen.
Bro, they're gonna make Igor cry if they keep losing games like 2-1 where he's like, I got to be better. Like, bro, it's not your fault. We
No.
understand. We understand. It's not your fault. All right, real quick.
Lundqvist did that for his entire career.
Yes, correct. All right, real quick before we get out of here, so I can eat dinner and we can watch the Rangers play the Devils. Expectations for the game tonight?
Please play better. Like, just play better than you did against Colorado, and also play better than the last time you played the Devils. Because like that game, I was watching that game, and it looked to me like the Rangers like didn't care to be there. For a lot of that game, the Devils like they didn't have the big pressure that you would associate that scoreline to be. They just kind of like just did their job, and the Rangers were like, "We'll let you have it." Like that's what it looked like, as opposed to a hard fought game that the Devils just got the bounces in or like whatever, and they won the game. It was more so of just like the Devils looking around and saying like, the Rangers are gonna just let us keep scoring, okay. And then they did. Like that's what it looked like. I need to see the Rangers show up as like, this is Rangers Devils. This is, if you want to go back to like the the 90s and the 2000s and like all this rivalry, like this is a rivalry. This should be a game that both teams are who hate each other show up and want to win the game. The Rangers in their previous meeting against New Jersey did not look like they want to win the game. I need to see the effort being put forth, that like I want to see the Rangers being hungry. I want to see them be angry about how the last meeting happened, and I want to see them put some pucks in the net here, because like it can't only score the power play. You have to score 5-on-5 here, guys. Like you got to just get to the dirty areas here. They really need to show that this is not just a team that they can be like. You can't just walk on the Rangers. You have to show up here and do your best. Otherwise, it's going to be another Devils win.
The Devils are the fastest team in the league. They go up and down so fast. All of their D are pretty good at breaking the puck out of their own zone. Vanacek has kind of come back to earth the last week. He wasn't very good in the game Friday against the Islanders. He got pulled for Akira. As long as the Rangers don't totally lay an egg tonight, it's fine that they lose to the Devils. Like, yeah, they need the standings points, that this is a division game especially. But as long as you don't get embarrassed, I can live with that. I'm not asking for a lot here.
I'd rather them win than lose. I'll tell you that.
Correct. Yes.
If the Rangers like lose off of an overtime, like 3-on-0 or whatever, then maybe let's revisit how we play 3-on-3 overtime. But like if they lose off of some, if as you hear sirens go off outside because I live next to a hospital, there's a difference in how you lose. If the Rangers lose because of some ridiculous bounce that just finds its way into the net and the Rangers lose 3-2 or 2-1 or whatever, it happens. But if the Rangers get trashed on 5-1 or 6-2 or whatever because they are bad, then that's a whole different way of looking at it. Like it's still 2 points at the end of the day. It's still one game, but how you play and how you lose matters. If you play a really close game and there's just a puck just bounces off of 8 people and goes into the net, and that's how you lose, whatever, like that happens. It's hockey is weird and silly and stupid. If you show up, like if you come to the game and you don't show up mentally and the Devils skate circles around you, that's a problem.
Yeah, that's a good way to end things. Make sure you are subscribed to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're on all the major podcasting platforms. Leave the show a nice 5-star review, please. The reviews help other people find the show. That's a good thing. Grow the community, make things more engaging, get more feedback from you guys, what types of content you're interested in. Make sure you're subscribed to the show's social feeds, Liberty Be Plot on Twitter and Instagram. Make sure you're following Andrew and I. I'm Nick Zararis on Twitter, Nick Zararis. Andrew is Chelney Andrew, Chelney on Twitter. Those are our personals. Make sure you're following those. Hopefully the Rangers don't get embarrassed against the Devils tonight. Game against the Leafs later in the week. Game against the Flyers and the Blackhawks. Let's go 2-2 this week, and we can call that a success.
Let's go 3-1. How about that?
3-1 would be nice,
Yeah.
but we're not. But the team they need to play well, okay?
Yeah.
The record is important, but making progress is really what matters. That's what matters.
Tonight's game could go 100 different ways.
Correct.
This game could be anything. The game against Toronto could be anything. But they really have to beat Philly, and they really have to beat Chicago. So if 3-1 is not out of the question if they just actually show up to one of these games.
All right. That'll do it. We'll see you guys next week. Let's go Rangers. Later.